Afghanistan, January 6, 1988. In the foothills of the Paktia Mountains, Soviet Army helicopters deployed an airborne unit, the 9th Company of the 345th Guards Airborne Regiment, a total of 39 soldiers. Their mission to seize and hold Hill 3234. The primary task of the 9th Company was to hold the dominant height of Hill 3234 in order to cover the Gardez Coast Road. Soviet military and supply convoys traveled along this route, and if the enemy seized the height, they could destroy the column from an ambush. The company had to hold the position at any cost, observe, adjust fire, and prevent the Mujahideen from breaking through to the road. The 9th Company of the Soviet Army was fully equipped with everything it needed. It included snipers, machine gunners, radio operators, and a company commander leading soldiers, many of whom were barely over 20 years old. This was a mobile, yet well-trained unit. Their arsenal included Kalashnikov rifles, machine guns, mortars, grenade launchers, and several hand grenades issued to each soldier. Everything required to carry out their mission, even in the toughest conditions. The main opponents of the Soviet army were the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen were armed groups of Afghan insurgents who fought against Soviet forces and the pro-Soviet government of the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan from 1979 to 1989. By 1987, the war had reached its peak, and the Mujahideen controlled a significant part of the country's rural areas. They received extensive foreign support. Financial, military, and political assistance came from the United States, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, China, and several other Muslim countries. Their goal was to expel foreign troops and overthrow the communist regime in Kabul. A certain group of Mujahideen stood out noticeably. They operated in a more organized manner, which indicated professional military training. Because they wore black uniforms, they were nicknamed the Black Storks. The Mujahideen were armed quite seriously. Their most common weapon was the captured AK-47, valued for its reliability and ease of maintenance. Next in popularity was the PKM machine gun, which provided powerful support in combat. But the weapon that gained the most notoriety in this war was the American FYM-92 Stinger. The Mujahideen used them effectively to shoot down Soviet helicopters, significantly influencing the course of the conflict. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention one interesting detail. The Mujahideen often wore white sneakers. It was a bit of local fashion, and they were simply comfortable in the mountains. Of course, this wasn't any kind of official rule, so let's not dwell on it too much. Just a note, Mujahideen would sometimes wear white sneakers. So, don't be surprised if you see Mujahideen in sneakers in the footage. It was intentional. The morning of January 7th was quiet. The sky was clear, and the sun was blinding. It seemed like an ordinary day in the mountains. Around 3 in the afternoon, the silence was pierced by the first shot. The Mujahideen opened fire on the 9th Company with mortars, recoilless guns, and grenade launchers. In the very first moments of the shelling, radio operator Andrei Fedotov was killed. The Russians lost communication with their command. An hour later, the Mujahideen infantry moved into the attack. At 16:30, as dusk was falling, under the cover of heavy fire, the Mujahideen launched an attack from 2 directions. 50 minutes later, the assault was repelled. 10 to 15 Mujahideen were killed, and around 30 wounded. They were unable to get closer than 60 meters to the main positions. During the attack, Junior Sergeant Vyacheslav Alexandrov was killed, one of the youngest soldiers in the company, only 20 years old. 1735. The second attack began. It targeted the section of the defense that had been weakened after the heavy machine gun was knocked out. By this time, the Soviet troops had already restored communication. The Soviet artillery observer requested fire support, and the artillery opened fire from distant positions. The D-30 howitzers, positioned several kilometers away, shelled the areas from which the Mujahideen were advancing. This helped weaken their assault. Long-range fire support helped for a while, But once darkness fell, they could no longer rely on it. Delivering accurate fire became too difficult, and sending reinforcements to the Ninth Company at night was impossible. Moving through that terrain in the dark was far too dangerous and would only put another group of soldiers at risk. The Mujahideen clearly understood this, as the attacks kept coming again and again. So imagine this. Night. The Ninth Company is holding the top of hill 3,234. Darkness all around and attacks coming from every direction. The soldiers have already been told there will be no support in the dark, no air support, no artillery fire, no infantry reinforcement. The Ninth Company understands. This isn't a mistake. It's the harsh reality of battle. They have only one option left, to hold the defense with their own strength and hope that fate gives them a chance to survive until dawn. To grasp the scale of the confrontation, the Russian Ninth Company had only 39 men, while the Mujahideen forces were far larger, over 250. The exact number of enemy fighters remains unknown, but some historical documents suggest it may have been closer to 400. With the fall of darkness, from 8 in the evening until 3 in the morning, the Mujahideen launched more than 8 assaults. By 3 a.m., the total number of attack attempts had reached 12, and the soldiers of the Ninth Company were nearly out of ammunition. Yet even after 12 hours of non-stop fighting, the Afghan Mujahideen failed to capture the height. Having taken losses, the exact number remains unknown. They were forced to retreat. The battle for Hill 3,234 became one of the toughest episodes of the war in Afghanistan. Over 12 hours of non-stop fighting, the Ninth Company repelled 12 assaults. Of the 39 soldiers, 6 were killed and 28 were wounded. For their courage and resilience, the surviving soldiers were awarded orders and medals, and the names of the fallen were forever engraved in the history of their unit. According to various estimates, the Mujahideen suffered from several dozen to over 100 casualties. The height remained unconquered,